This video is sponsored by Audible. Click the link in the description to start your free trial and get your free book.
Alright, believe it or not, time's arrow neither stands still nor reverses. It merely marches forward.
Inspiration is incredibly important when writing a story, or really when doing anything artistic. Sure, if you're being paid enough, you could definitely write an uninspired story that you didn't care about at all.
Well, Danny kind of forgot.
But being inspired by something that truly resonates with you on a personal level, and then putting those emotions on the page, that is where truly outstanding narratives are born. And aside from writing, my other great love in life is psychology. While I am an editor and an author, my formal educational background is in psychology, and I think what inspires me more than anything else in the world is how writing and psychology intersect. I love the idea of taking a deep dive into the emotional and mental world of others, even if they are fictional, because I think it allows me to become more empathetic and understanding to them and myself. This is the inspiration that stands at the center of my writing. Interestingly enough, in season 4 of Bojack, there are 2 particular episodes that make me think the creative team behind the show, or at least one person on it, had the same inspiration that I do. Now, if you'll indulge me, in a moment it's going to sound like I'm going off on a Psych 101 tangent, but trust me, what I'm about to say does relate back to Bojack. So, let's head all the way back to the mid-20th century, when a man named Robert J. Lifton had just graduated from New York Medical College. Robert J. Lifton would go on to become a renowned psychiatrist and an early endorser of the techniques of psychohistory. Now, psychohistory is the study of the psychological motivations of historical events, and its core subject matter revolves around childhood and the family. Psychohistory derives many of its concepts from areas that are perceived to be ignored by conventional historians, in particular, the effects of parenting practice and child abuse. Psychohistorians believe that the unconscious flashbacks to early fears and destructive parenting could greatly influence both individual and social behaviors. Robert J. Lifton's beliefs in psychohistory were inspired by the times he lived through and his profession. Robert was in his mid-teenage years when World War II started, and when he became a psychiatrist, he worked with the US Air Force in Japan and Korea, interviewing former prisoners of war. He wanted to find a reason for the atrocities that ravaged the world across his lifespan, and psychohistory provided him the answers that he sought. But Robert J. Lifton was not just a psychiatrist. He was an author, and he used his love of psychohistory and his life experiences as inspiration for his work. One such work of his was The Nazi Doctors, a book about the involvement of German doctors in World War II extermination camps. In the late 20th century, Robert J. Lifton gifted a copy of this book to his friend Martin Amis. After reading through The Nazi Doctors, Martin Amis became inspired to write his own book. It was a fictional novel about a German Holocaust doctor, though told in reverse chronology, meaning that the characters became younger and younger during the events of the story, giving the reader the ability to explore what formed the Nazi doctor into the man he was, running in line with psychohistory's focus on childhood and family. The novel was called Time's Arrow, and it opens with the lines, "I move forward." The Bojack Horseman episode Time's Arrow is not only inspired by the book of the same name, but by the inspiration for that book. Crackerjack Sugarman, Beatrice's brother, goes off to fight in World War II and is unfortunately killed. This causes a chain reaction that affects and ripples throughout the Horseman family for generations. This exact phenomenon was what Robert J. Lifton was so interested in with psychohistory, the cyclical nature of how familial relationships can cause events like war, and in turn how wars can affect familial relationships. This inspiration and this level of detail in research is what it takes to craft truly impactful, organic narratives. I mean, I researched all this stuff and I'm honestly still baffled by how much care and detail the Bojack team used when creating their narratives. And if you're thinking this seems really difficult and intricate, it's because you're right. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Writing on this level is really hard, but that is what makes Time's Arrow world-class storytelling. There is a reason that it's the show's second highest rated episode on IMDb. Want to guess the only other higher rated episode? Free Churro, which again focuses on the effects of childhood and the family, and is only made possible because of the excellence of Time's Arrow. Oh, and just because I like to beat a dead horse, pun halfway intended, the 5th highest rated episode is The Old Sugarman Place, which is the setup for the 2 highest rated episodes, and again, focuses on childhood and the family. And of course, not every subject or narrative needs this level of effort, but some really do. Mental illness is a very powerful topic, but also a very delicate one. If you have a theme of similar weight in your story, research with care, because unlike some other subjects like getting a leading movie role or trying to become governor, many people can relate and are personally invested in stories of mental illness. They are sensitive to your position because you are basing your story around something that directly affects them. Your narrative has the power to shape perceptions, and quite honestly, it is your responsibility to become educated enough to mold people's opinions correctly. But in tandem with investigative research, don't be afraid to draw from your personal life for inspirations in your writing. If you couple what research you have done with what you have experienced yourself, you will be rewarded with a unique, compelling story. The team for Bojack took this very approach. Producer and writer Kate Purdy said, "We did do research about dementia, and also drawing from personal experiences with our family members. We talked a lot about our own experiences in the room, and we talked about our own memories and compared how our memories work." And the best way to instill emotions in your audience is to create points in your narrative that are inspired by what makes you emotional. Though they can be uncomfortable to dredge up, by basing what you can in your narratives on personal experiences, you draw from a genuine well that can neither be cliché or contrived, because it's real. You can use your experiences as inspiration for narrative nuances that no one else might think of. Kate Purdy did this exact thing when creating the doll that Beatrice is so attached to. She said, "I had a great aunt who at age 93 developed breast cancer and was in the hospital for it. She had dementia and she kept asking for her baby. My grandmother, her sister, was heartbroken and went and got her a doll and gave her the doll. That pacified my great aunt, her older sister." And even if you don't have a powerful personal experience to draw on, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking inspiration from someone else's work if it truly resonates with you. Show creator Raphael Bob Waxberg has stated taking great inspiration for season 4 from the poem This Be the Verse, written and here spoken by Philip Larkin.
This be the verse. They f*** you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had, and add some extra just for you. But they were f***ed up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern, and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can, and don't have any kids yourself.
That last line can be seen as direct inspiration to Beatrice telling Henrietta to give up her child so that Henrietta does not make the same mistake that she did. Exploring the core themes of psychohistory, Bojack Horseman puts the role of the parent at center stage and looks at how the abuse of the child can cause cascading consequences for generations. In Time's Arrow, Beatrice's father tells her not to cry and let her womanly emotions consume her when she is a child. Later in The Shot, Beatrice tells the young Bojack, "Don't you ever cry," when he tears up after smoking a cigarette he took from her purse, leaving him emotionally crippled and unable to cry in front of others as an adult. When young Bojack asks which he's being punished for, stealing or crying, Beatrice says, "I'm punishing you for being alive." This is in relation to Beatrice's own mother telling her that she should never have children because she should never love anything as much as a child. And this process isn't exclusive to Beatrice either. Butterscotch Horseman had a habit of giving women he slept with a false number in case they were knocked up. Instead of the number to his residence, it was to a pizza parlor in Brownsburg. We see Bojack adopt this exact same bad habit as his father in Commence Fracking. The number Bojack gives women to call is actually to a sandwich shop in Temecula. When talking about the cycle of parents ruining children and then children turning into parents that ruin their own children, Raphael Bob Waxberg has said, "That's the pattern all these characters are in. I think it's always in the back of my head, certainly for these characters. I don't know if it's a universal thing, but I think in the world of our show, it definitely fits in pretty squarely." For Wax, this concept was always in his mind, and he used that as inspiration to create the narratives around the Horseman family. He also understood that he might not have enough personal experience on the matter and went to get inspiration from outside sources. If there's one thing that I would want people to take away from this video, it is this. You are a completely unique individual who is the only person in the entire world that could tell your story. If you have nothing else, you have that as inspiration. You are the best person ever at speaking your narrative. Be brave in your writing, because no matter how bad people say you are or how much you have yet to learn, your voice deserves to speak and your story deserves to be heard in whatever form it may take. But also have the respect for yourself and others to learn. The best authors, really the best people, are always becoming more inclusive of new experiences. You don't even necessarily need to change your mind, but you at least need to recognize those experiences are there. That is the only way to write about them with dignity. Thank you all so much for watching. As I said at the beginning of the video, the channel has recently partnered with Audible. If you've been eyeing a particular book or wanted to try out Audible, today is your lucky day. Click the link in the description to receive a free book when you start a free Audible trial. And don't worry, there are no strings attached. You can cancel your free trial at any time with no money down. The more people that click the link to support Audible, the more support that this channel receives, meaning I can keep bringing you guys content. As always, it was a pleasure, and I will talk to you all again soon.